shopping for rugs, it's just not very much fun. Well, Revival believes that rugs are works of art that have the power to transform a space, and the secret sauce lies in blending quality materials with traditional and modern weaving techniques to make the best rugs around. The founders didn't want to spend thousands on a new rug. They bring their approach to rugs to you. There are beautiful vintage rugs. There are washable rugs. This is Revival's most popular rug collection. They are combining true washability with the look and feel of a real rug, so you don't have to sacrifice style for convenience. I just bought a gorgeous 8x10 rug. I can't wait to put it into my dining room. The shopping experience was so easy compared to traditional rug shopping. You just go onto the website. You can get an overall impression of the rugs. You can see them. You can compare them. It was so easy to find the one that worked for me. Visit revivalrugs.com/fluster and use code FLUSTER20 for 20% off your first order. Once again, that's revivalrugs.com/fluster and use code FLUSTER20. One more time, revivalrugs.com/FLUSTER with code FLUSTER20 to save 20%. One of the myths in my field is that if you talk about it, it causes it. This is very much a part of conversations about suicide, conversations about self-harm, that if you bring it up, it gives kids the idea.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a Flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Lynn.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be back for a little guest spot.
So we are very delighted because we have the This Is So Awkward podcast gals with us, Vanessa and Cara. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Would you like to just introduce yourselves to our listeners? You are the puberty experts, and we are so excited to have you.
I am Vanessa Kroll Bennett, and Cara and I live in Puberty Land, the magical place of Puberty Land, where we spend all day, every day, writing about, podcasting about, speaking to and for and about tweens and teens and their experiences through the physical, social, emotional changes that is puberty and adolescence. My role is to help with scripting and guidance, to help translate complicated science in relatable ways. I have the incredible privilege of working with Cara and leaning on her medical degree and her training as a physician. She has conferred on me an honorary medical degree from the University of Cara Natterson.
It's a very prestigious school.
Very prestigious. It has one student, one graduate. That's
Only
me.
let in one.
Yes. And my background is actually from girls and sports. I got into the puberty business because I was coaching hundreds, thousands of girls in sports using social emotional learning and fundamental sports skills to help build their self-esteem. And it became clear that the data that showed us that girls' self-esteem was peaking at age 9, precipitously declining after that, was not a coincidence that that was also the average onset of puberty for girls. So I then moved into the world of puberty for kids of all genders because everybody struggles and also can thrive in these tumultuous years. And so I get to help support adults, teachers, and kids through this journey.
And I'm the sidekick, Cara. I'm the plus one. I'm a pediatrician. I got here by a completely circuitous route. I was in practice. I started writing books. I left practice, decided I was going to write books full time, landed at American Girl, luckiest pivot of my life. American Girl ended up writing the Care and Keeping of You series of books, which has been incredibly joyful because most of my books were parenting books, and this was books for kids about their changing bodies. And these books, they predated me. The first book came out while I was in my training in pediatrics, but I had the great pleasure of updating that book and writing 4 more in the series and traveling all over the country and meeting kids and their parents and all the things. And my kids were in puberty at the same time. And it was really horrible for my kids, actually, that I was writing these books and teaching their sex ed. Anyhow, side note. So I ended up founding this company that I got Vanessa to join me at. It's called Less Awkward. It started as a direct-to-consumer product company where we made bras that were comfortable and actually worked. We made socks that don't smell. We make functionally antifungal shorts because they're so loosey-goosey, they air you out. There's all these pain point solutions. And we ended up morphing into a company that really is a content company, doing all the things that Vanessa just described. I mean, just making this stage of life, which every single person goes through, more joyful, more informed. Education is power. Lynn has had this conversation with us on our podcast, but information is everything. And we are believers that if that information is presented in lots of different ways, video, audio, written, and it's spoken to so many different audiences, mostly joyfully, people can internalize the information. And there's a nice bonus, which is we use real science in our information. So
that's amazing.
It's like a real twist these days. So that's us. You can tell we love what we do, and we're thrilled to be here.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
You can ask 12 questions.
All right. Here's one of the things that I've run into. I will be meeting with parents that are very educated, very intelligent, very capable. I'll just give you one example. There was a girl who I was treating because I treat anxiety, as you know, and she was really, really nervous about getting her period. Very, very anxious about it, in keeping with her anxiety disorder. And I sort of asked her, well, what do you know about it? She thought that it sort of turns on like a fire hose. And she was terrified that she was going to be sitting in 8th grade or 9th grade. And then all of a sudden she was just going to be spraying everywhere. And it was so surprising to me because I made the assumption that her parents would have given her accurate information based on their level of education. And do you find that? Is that something that is common for you guys?
It's so common, Lynn. There's not typically a carry-on effect, like level of education or sophistication or depth of knowledge in other areas doesn't always translate into knowledge in this area about changing bodies, a willingness to have conversations about it, a realization about how really critical it is to kids' safety. So it's super common. And this particular question and issue is incredibly common. What we see with kids about periods, particularly first periods, is that they have all these sort of images in their minds about what it's going to be like. And they've heard it from all sorts of people, and they're not getting either the right information or information that sort of counters the incorrect narratives. And there's a wonderful sex educator that I worked with, Sue Steinberg, who does this wonderful thing where she's talking about what a period is like and how much actual menstrual fluid there is coming out of the body. And she's like, I know you all think it's like this, whoosh, but actually it's like this, drip, drip, drip. It was so reassuring. So I did workshops with hundreds and hundreds of girls and their parents. And one of the families in my workshop, the girl was a ballerina. And in between acts of the Nutcracker, she got her period. But because of our workshop, she knew she didn't have to freak out, that it wasn't whoosh, it was drip, drip. And so she would have time to go and get, a pad or something in between acts during the performance. And so, as Cara said earlier, knowledge is power. Knowledge about logistics and knowledge with specificity for kids either entering puberty or in puberty is so critical. We have to figure out what their starting place is. And you do this in your work, Lynn. Can't make assumptions. We have to figure, we're busy worrying about period and, oh, she's turning into a woman and, oh, she could get pregnant. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about, what if I leak in 8th grade in my classroom and I'm so embarrassed? Where do I hide my tampon or not hide my tampon when I have to go to the bathroom? They're thinking about logistics. We have to meet them in their starting place.
And add on to that if you think you're protecting your kid by not sharing this information with them because they're not ready or you don't want to freak them out, let me tell you, they're hearing the information. They're getting it on the bus. They're getting it from their friends at a sleepover. They're getting it online. They're getting all this information. And frankly, they're getting a lot of really bad information. I mean, a 9-year-old font of wisdom is 9, right? Like, if you're wondering, is it time for me to talk about whatever it is? You can fill that blank in with any word, periods, erections, masturbation, porn, like all of it. If you're wondering it, it's probably time for you to start circling around the topic. Don't worry, you have hundreds of conversations to have on any given topic. So it's probably time to start assessing knowledge and thinking about, what do you, as the parent or trusted adult, want to be in charge of in terms of sharing information? Because as soon as you relinquish, boy, there are a lot of people out there who want to fill in.
As a parent, I bet your brain is already at full capacity. You've got school projects, to-do lists, errands to run. Let Skylight Calendar handle it for you. It syncs your entire family schedule onto a sleek digital display so you can focus on the more important things, like remembering whether or not your coffee is in the microwave or upstairs on the bathroom sink. Skylight Calendar was designed to connect the digital and non-digital worlds while bringing families together. The digital display showcases your family's schedule with clarity, color, and brilliance in either a 10 or 15-inch HD touchscreen. It's an all-in-one smart calendar. It syncs with Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, Outlook, and more. With the free Skylight Companion app, you can add or update events, lists, and more on the go. Your happiness is Skylight's happiness. So if in 120 days you are not 100% thrilled with your purchase, you can return it for a full refund. No questions asked. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/fluster. Go to skylightcal.com/fluster for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/fluster. Shopping for rugs? It's just not very much fun. Well, Revival believes that rugs are works of art that have the power to transform a space, and the secret sauce lies in blending quality materials with traditional and modern weaving techniques to make the best rugs around. The founders didn't want to spend thousands on a new rug. They bring their approach to rugs to you. There are beautiful vintage rugs. There are washable rugs. This is Revival's most popular rug collection. They are combining true washability with the look and feel of a real rug, so you don't have to sacrifice style for convenience. I just bought a gorgeous 8x10 rug. I can't wait to put it into my dining room. The shopping experience was so easy compared to traditional rug shopping. You just go onto the website. You can get an overall impression of the rugs. You can see them. You can compare them. It was so easy to find the one that worked for me. Visit revivalrugs.com/fluster and use code FLUSTER20 for 20% off your first order. Once again, that's revivalrugs.com/fluster and use code FLUSTER20. One more time, revivalrugs.com/FLUSTER with code FLUSTER20 to save 20%. So when you buy seafood, what are you looking for? You're looking for nutrition, sustainability, taste, and you also want one that tastes delicious. Well, Wild Alaskan Company is the best way to get wild-caught, perfectly portioned, nutrient-dense seafood delivered directly to your door. It is really delicious. I actually had some salmon last night. It was delicious. It is 100% wild caught, never farmed. This means there's no antibiotics, GMOs, or additives, just clean, real fish that support healthy oceans and fishing communities. It is delicious, nutrient rich, full of flavor. It's frozen off the boat to lock in the taste, the texture, and the nutrients like omega-3s. And it's sustainably sourced, wild caught from Alaska. Every order supports sustainable harvesting practices, and your membership delivers flexible shipments, expert tips, and truly feel-good seafood. If you're not completely satisfied with your first box, Wild Alaskan Company will give you a full refund. No questions asked, no risk, just high-quality seafood. Not all fish are the same. Get seafood you can trust. Go to wildalaskan.com/fluster for $35 off your first box of premium wild-caught seafood. That's wildalaskan.com/fluster for $35 off your first order. Thanks to Wild Alaskan Company for sponsoring this episode. Okay, we're back.
When you talk about periods, one of the things that I have followed in your work is how puberty is different now than when many of our listeners experience puberty with age and duration and things like that. But when you talk about that first period, at my school, there was a 5th grade talk, and everybody talked about it in advance. And it was actually quite thorough and really covered because the girls were separated. So we got that information. Are you noticing trends where that information is just not as available now to 5th graders today as it would have been in our generations?
No, quite the opposite. I think the trend is there's a ton of information out there. I've written books. Zillions of other people have written books. There's a lot out there in the written format. There's tons online. Kids talk about, periods as an example. Boy, have we come a long way in terms of what is part of just cultural norms. There are shows that talk about periods in ways that you never would have heard about a period discussed 20, 30 years ago.
Judy Blume was our only source of information.
Right. And how important was that? She was
so important.
Oh my God. She changed the game and opened floodgates. So periods specifically, I think you've picked one example of a place where there's a lot of information and a lot of conversation. The question is, how do kids get access to it? And for every good piece of information, there are probably 25 pieces of slightly wrong or slightly stressful or scary or completely off pieces of information. How do you vet it? But there are lots of other pieces of puberty and physical and social and emotional development that are not quite as out there as the period content.
And Robin, I think it's unusual that you were getting that information in 5th grade because a lot of schools started their health ed or sex ed later when we were growing up. And our goal is actually to move it earlier. So we have a health and sex ed curriculum. Our middle school, in quotes, curriculum is actually 4th through 8th grade because we want schools at the very least to start in 4th grade. If girls on average are entering puberty between 8 and 9 and boys on average between 9 and 10, 4th grade is a good place to start. What we especially love are schools that are starting these conversations about privacy and consent and respect and bodily autonomy in like kindergarten or 1st or 2nd or 3rd grade, so that you're laying all the groundwork of trust and information and conversation and connection before it ever has to do with sex. It's all about community and respect for each other's space and humanity.
The Dutch model, right?
The Dutch
Do
model.
it like the Dutch. Do it like the Dutch.
What does that mean? What do you mean, do it like the Dutch?
Lynn just got interested.
Wait, what? What do the Dutch
Lynn.
do? Yeah, thank you. No, I was listening intently.
So the Dutch have this really evolved approach to health and sex ed, which is that it's a fundamental part of education throughout an entire lifetime of a kid's path through school. And it's part of a family's conversation. So they're teaching kids the anatomically correct words for all parts of their bodies, including their genitals. They're teaching about consent from the very beginning before it ever has to do with sex. They are promoting open conversations about sex, sexuality, intimacy, relationships, and the outcomes, the positive outcomes in their society are astounding. Much higher rates of committed monogamous sexual relationships amongst teens and young adults, lower rates of teen pregnancy, lower rates of sexual assault, higher rates of relationship satisfaction. So like all of the sort of markers that we use and theoretically study, although right now many of these studies are being suspended, about hallmarks of healthy sexual relationships and emotional outcomes from these adolescent relationships, the Dutch have that by actually teaching it and talking about it.
There's a great piece of trivia for anyone traveling to Amsterdam. There's a kids' museum, and for the teens, there is an exhibit of two giant tongues that are so big you could put both of your arms in to move them like puppets. And a person stands on either side and puts their arms into one of the tongues to talk about kissing. And as an American, it's like, what the hell is this? But for the Dutch, they're like shrugging.
So what's the museum called?
Just the Children's Museum.
Of tongues.
Wow.
Not the sex museum, just the children. Yeah, just the Children's Museum. But it just shows the integration culturally of this to that point where it can also be something that isn't taken too seriously. There's not a taboo situation around it and all of that. So I thought that what you said, it's like, yeah, that's why they have a French kissing exhibit in their kids' museum.
I'll send you a picture when I'm there.
I'm counting on it.
All right. So in thinking about anxious parents, because that's who I tend to hang out with, one of the myths in my field is that if you talk about it, it causes it. This is very much a part of conversations about suicide, conversations about self-harm, that if you bring it up, it gives kids the idea. And I'm guessing that you probably have that same pushback in your talk that, look, we can't talk to kids about sex because that means that then they're going to want to have sex. And we can't talk to people about masturbation because then they're going to do it more. Is that something that you guys run into?
Yes. I mean, solidly, the contagion idea, that planting the seed idea. Can't talk to your kid about porn because then they're going to be curious about porn. They're going to go look it up.
They already are.
Yeah.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Not us, but if peer to peer, can't talk about feelings because they're going to catch feelings.
Right.
Right. It's like all of it. Okay. Like, let's pick our battles. Like, they need to throw up a hurdle up. That's a low hurdle. We can get over that hurdle. And that's really easy to sort of overcome with just any piece of data. We all know that actually education empowers. And there are so many studies, we link to them in all of the work we do about how knowing body parts reduces the risk of sexual predation. Why? Because a kid who knows their body parts is talking to an adult who loves them. And you're a sexual predator. You don't want a kid talking to an adult who loves them. That gets in your way of sexual predation, right? So like, boom, we know that talking about sex and comprehensive sex education delays sexual experimentation. Now, the problem here is that we talk about things that are not just okay, that are human and natural and inevitable and like things that we want. If your child grows up to be an adult who wants to be in a sexual relationship and that sexual relationship is healthy and it's deep and loving and all the things, like that's the win. So we talk about avoiding this thing as if it's bad, but it's actually this thing that one day we want to flip the narrative and we want to make it good, right? And so that is the long game as far as we're concerned. It's like everything we talk about is in the context of just because we're talking about it today doesn't mean we want you to go do it tomorrow. It means we're informing you about it today. So when these decision trees come up in your life tomorrow, you have the framework to think it through. I mean, drugs and alcohol, classic conversation that we get so much pushback on initially. I don't want to talk to my kids about vaping because like it's either all negative or they might want to do it. No, you get to talk to them about why nicotine is so addictive, why alcohol in a developing brain works differently than alcohol in a not developing brain. Like it's all about giving kids a very slow, thoughtful, rational path into things that are coming down the road for them. These are all things that are coming their way. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, body changes, all the things, they're all coming. And so contagion, I think that's kind of it's an annoying obstacle, but it's surmountable.
Well, and what you're saying too is that when you're having these conversations with your kids, you're giving them the message that you can talk to us about stuff.
Not only that, but like, oh, this is hard stuff or awkward stuff. And I'm going to go there. Vanessa has taught me. Vanessa's so smart. I know I'm looking at her right now and it's like embarrassing for her sometimes when I do this, but she's got such an amazing way of communicating. And she does this thing where she'll communicate and she'll be like, I'm so nervous about talking to you about this thing. My palms are sweaty. My heart is racing. I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it. And why is she narrating it? Because she's telling them, I'm living in the discomfort because it's so important that I get this information out to you. And by the way, you can come to me when you're uncomfortable and I will sit there with you in the exact same way that I'm asking you to sit here with me for a minute.
I also think that people don't give kids enough credit. I think kids are like so curious and so cool and so smart, and they want information. They want to understand. They want the science and the explanations. And we just assume that they don't. And yeah, they might not always like have the body language that's telling us they're super psyched to be having that conversation. You know, the like eye roll, shrug, hood up, shoulders turned. Fine. It's not about us. It's about them. We know they need this information. We got to get over our stuff and give them the information. But also, we can't take it so personally when they're not like, thank you so much for talking to me about.
Yeah, that was so meaningful.
That was like really, you transformed my life and I feel so much closer to you now. Like, they're not going to give it to you. They're not. They want to get on with their day. They want to go shoot baskets. They want to go call their friend. Fine. You gave them information that's going to make them safer and healthier. They know you're a source of good information, that, as you guys said earlier, that you can handle giving them information, that when they come back with questions, you are an open door to come to with those questions, and that you trust them with bigger and bigger topics and complex issues. And then they're like, oh, I feel taken seriously. That feels really good.
What's interesting about this great conversation is that from Lynn's perspective, when she's with these anxious families, the challenge that you're trying to help them through is, do they have the capacity of overcoming their own discomfort for the greater good of their child? And what I love what you said, Cara, is say you have a son and you think about, I have this vision, a beautiful vision that my son at age 30 says, I've met this partner who I really love and we have this really great relationship. And I think we want to commit to one another and maybe or maybe not start a family, doesn't really matter. But the point is, like, and Lynn always says, how do you get there? Well, the parents have a role in the building blocks of getting there by starting those conversations and just really motivating parents who are listening to overcome discomfort.
And Robin, I mean, I have 3 sons and 1 daughter, and my oldest son has a huge heart. And he's also, you look at him and you're like, oh, he's like a total bro. But inside that bro-y package, he has a huge heart. He's a very, very loving person. And the world is busy telling him, hey, to be the guy, don't be loving, be a jerk, do this, do that, act like this, say this. And my job for the last several years has just been to say to him, when you are ready, I believe you will be an incredible boyfriend. I know you have so much love to give. You are such a wonderful son. You are such a wonderful brother. You are such a wonderful friend. You are going to use all those qualities when you choose, and you're going to be an incredible boyfriend. And I am so excited for one day when you choose to step into that role. And years, I have been saying that to him. And he just recently said to me, Mom, you were right. And they're not always going to say to you, Mom, you were right. Most of the time, they won't. And I could have stopped and I could have given up and he could have said to me, ugh, maybe he did. I blocked it out. But my job was just to keep reminding him of all of the ways he could be a human being, could be in relationship with another person. I was having all those other conversations about all the other stuff, but I knew the stuff that was going to get lost with him was that part. And I did not want that to get lost.
I feel like it's important to add here that there may be someone listening who thinks, this all sounds great. I can't believe I missed the boat. And I'm now freaking out because I'm raising a kid who does not have these skills. I mean, we are here to tell you it is never too late. If you have a 25-year-old and you've never had these conversations, great, go have these conversations. It just doesn't matter. What matters is that you start.
I think that parents' discomfort about this stops them from having the conversations. So I often say talk 85% less when I'm talking about anxiety. But say you've got a parent who's like, all right, I'm going to do it. How many minutes does that first conversation have to be?
2 minutes, 1 minute?
Maybe less.
I mean, the first conversation I had with my youngest about porn, he was 10. So for listeners who are like, what? The average age for porn exposure in this country is 12 years old, and 15% of 10-year-olds have been exposed to porn. That's based on a 2023 Common Sense Media study. Okay. So I was like, oh, I have a 10-year-old who is a fourth child. Like this kid for sure. Literally, the conversation I think was maybe 5 sentences. It was, hey, have you ever heard the word or the term porn or pornography? He said, oh yeah, somebody said something about Pornhub recently. I was like, okay, clock that. Some of his peers are talking about Pornhub. What do you think it means? Well, I think it's like about sexy stuff, but I'm not really sure. Great. It is. It's people doing sexual acts in video or in pictures. It's not for kids. If you are ever exposed to it or shown it or you see it, you can always come talk to me. I won't freak out. I'm here with any questions, but it's really not for kids. It represents things that can be scary or confusing. So just let me know if you have questions. That was it.
Done.
And the sex talk, a few sentences. Each time, I always say people want to back up the dump truck and just let it all slide out
Yeah.
because it helps them feel better, right? They're like, okay, I've geared up for it. I'm going to do it. And then they just like vomit everything they've ever read, heard, or seen. But the kid is like drowning in all the information. They can't take it on board. It's too much. And if you mess it up, then you're like, oh, I just blew my shot. That's it. But if you do tiny little conversations, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, you're in the car, you're walking the dog, you're lying on the couch, whatever it is, then when you mess it up, because you'll mess it up, you just blew like one fuse, not the whole fuse box.
And the other thing is there are kids who they don't want to have this conversation. Maybe they're not talkers. Like most boys, just chemically, hormonally, they turn their volume down, they turn their speech meter down, they just get quieter when they're in puberty for many years. They shut a door, right? Girls shut doors all the time. Sometimes they really like physically don't want to be in this conversation. All the more reason when you have to have the conversation, you're in, you're out.
I mean, I will literally say, I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. I got to talk to you about fentanyl. We're not going to belabor it. It's a super important issue. It's extremely dangerous. I'm going to set the timer. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything. I'm going to talk for a couple minutes and then you're done.
Vanessa, do the thing you do when you haven't done the 5 minutes. You're dropping off at the party.
Oh, sometimes, oh my God, I'm dropping my kid at the party. I haven't talked to them about fentanyl recently. I haven't done the reminder. Hey, Dude, no pills, no powders. Remember the conversation about fentanyl. Don't take anything from anyone, okay? If you're in trouble or something happens, text me, call me. And they're like, okay, bye. Out the door. It's not a kumbaya moment. Sometimes it's just like literally as they're leaving your car or leaving your house.
Yeah, that's what I used to do with my boys. So I have two young men now, 26 and 24. And I had given them all the talks about responsible driving and drinking and blah, 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 blah. So they would be leaving and I would hand them the car keys and I would point at them and I would say, speech, speech, speech. And that was like, everything I've told you before, I'm saying it right now. And they were so grateful that they didn't have to hear it again. I would just go, speech, speech, speech.
My kid was going to a concert. He's in college. He's telling me he's going, I literally go to open my mouth to say it again. And he goes, I know, Mom, I know. And he gave back to me what I've said to him 400 times. I was like, awesome, done. Now actually listen to the advice.
Which is a whole nother challenge. Yeah.
We're going to take a break. And when we come back, I have a question for you for the parents whose kids are not yet in puberty.
Okay, you know when you run into a friend or an acquaintance and they say, how are you? And you say, oh, good. Well, those words just sort of come out of our mouth, but what if you really meant it? What if when somebody said to you, how are you doing? And you said, I'm good. You could really mean it. This is what Headspace helps with. It's an app that helps 100 million people with their mental health and well-being with guided meditations, mindfulness practices, and so much more. It helps reduce stress, boost mood, and it improves sleep. Headspace combines scientifically proven benefits of meditation and mindfulness with modern practices. Look, the science is in. We know that even small amounts of meditation can improve your sense of well-being, improve your sleep. It also helps when you're short on time. There are on-the-go programs that help you get in the right headspace in just a few minutes. There are over 1,000 hours of mindfulness exercise. Feel good and mean it when you say it. For a limited time, get Headspace free for 60 days. Go to headspace.com/fluster. That's HEADSPACE.com/fluster to unlock all of Headspace free for 60 days. Headspace.com/fluster. So a lot of families are really working to reduce screen time, but you still want something that engages your children's brains. There's a podcast called Who Smarted. It's a short, fun daily podcast that teaches science, history, and weird facts in a way that's silly and smart. It was created by people who worked on shows like Nat Geo's Brain Games, so it's evidence-based, but totally kid-friendly and fun for grown-ups. It gives kids' eyes and nervous systems a break. It sparks conversation, so instead of you always being the explainer, you get to listen and discuss things with them. Parents love it. You're just replacing background noise with something meaningful. It's called Who Smarted, and you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, spring is in the air. I love spring. I love my kitty. I don't love litter box stink. Nobody does. That's why we use Pretty Litter. It obliterates odors so we can enjoy all the wonderful scents of spring without the smell of a litter box. Pretty Litter's non-clumping formula traps odor and moisture. It's lightweight, low dust, 1 6-pound bag works for up to a month. And Pretty Litter gives me peace of mind. It changes color to indicate early signs of potential illness in my kitty, like urinary tract infections, kidney issues, and more. And since Pretty Litter ships free right to my door, I never run out. You don't want to run out of kitty litter. I don't have huge kitty litter bags taking up space. I don't have to go out to my car and get those huge tubs of cat litter and lug them into the house. I have used many types of kitty litter. I have had cats my whole life. Pretty Litter is better. It doesn't clump. It's cleaner. It's not dusty. And you can tell the difference between a litter that deals with odor and a litter that doesn't. Pretty Litter helps keep my house smelling fresh and clean. Try and you'll love it. Go to prettylitter.com/flusterclux to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. That's prettylitter.com/flusterclux to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. prettylitter.com/flusterclux. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. Okay, so now back to the show.
So now one of the things that I really loved when I was exploring your website and your writing, I think that the cornerstone of communication during adolescence and puberty is really so important, and you give so much instruction. There's such a transition of how we communicate with our kids that changes during puberty that makes parents dread puberty, fear it. What advice do you give parents to manage this and to be intentional about a shift in communicating but staying connected?
Today, I'm feeling like I'm the president of the Vanessa fan club, but it's true because she teaches people how to leave their baggage at the door. Vanessa, will you teach that?
So one of the biggest obstacles for people is they're carrying their own puberty baggage into all these conversations. There's very few people for whom puberty was like smooth sailing, no big deal. They felt great about their bodies and their relationships and their family dynamics and their romantic reality. It's a really complicated time. So we like to remind people, this is your kid's puberty, not your puberty. And they don't need to carry all of your baggage on top of the very arduous, long, exhausting process they're going through. So if you're at the front end of a kid who's going to enter puberty, this is a really good time to kind of unpack your own experience, not with your kid, with your friends, with your partner, with a therapist. Start to really track if you're noticing a kid's changing body and you're starting to freak out about your kid's changing body. Maybe they're gaining weight. Maybe they have breast buds. Maybe they're starting to look different and you're having grief or you're having flashbacks to your own experience or you're feeling yucky about your kid. You're looking at your kid and you're like, where did my adorable child go? I don't like how they look. Track all those feelings, recognize them. Don't push them down. Don't dump them on your kid. Find a trusted adult to have those conversations with, because I think—
You mean your own trusted adult?
Yes. Not your kid is not your trusted adult. Your kid is not your friend. They're your kid.
No kid really wants to hear about their parents' puberty experiences, right?
And Lynn, it's so crazy because when I say this to audiences, this is how we open our talk, is leave your puberty baggage at the door. Every single time I get a question from a parent who clearly has dumped their puberty baggage on their kid. And we all have, we've all done it, said stuff we regret, shared stories that were like totally inappropriate for us to be sharing with our kid. But there's always a parent like, don't you think it makes them feel better to know that I was heartbroken and I cried myself to sleep for a year because I was so devastated and it took me decades to have a healthy relationship? No, it doesn't make them feel better. It makes them feel worried about your stuff and it makes them feel worried that they'll handle it. So again, don't dump your stuff. The only exceptions are funny stuff.
Yeah, stuff you got through.
Resilience.
Stuff you got through, resilience, grit building, a kind thing you did. Not something that's going to weigh them down, something that buoys them and makes them feel optimistic about being able to manage this complicated stage of life.
But there's no I in puberty is basically the short version of that.
Or I in parenting.
Oh my God. How did we never come up with that, Vanessa?
I mean,
there is an I in anxiety.
There is an I in parenting. There is an I.
That's funny, Robin. There's no I in parenting. And everybody's like,
Robin, I was with you on that. I didn't catch that. I was on board.
There's no I in parent.
Yeah,
Oh.
there we go. We got it.
So how can our listeners get more of this great information? Your podcast, obviously. And do you want to talk about what is this membership club that you have?
Yeah. So here's our story. We have our podcast, This Is So Awkward, which used to be called the Puberty Podcast. Love the alliteration, but it felt too narrow because really we covered so much more than just physical and emotional shifts. Frankly, puberty covers so much more too. So the podcast is now called This Is So Awkward. We have a book called This Is So Awkward. And all of our content that we have ever created individually and mostly together. Our books, our newsletters, our social media videos, our podcast episodes, all of this content is available on a platform through our website, Less Awkward. Lessawkward.com is how you get to it. And actually what we did, and Vanessa made reference to it earlier, is we took all of this IP and not only did we make it available to a community through a membership, but we also spun it into school-based health and sex education. We are just hitting our 1-year birthday of launching Health and Sex Ed. We are live in middle schools in 4 states, which is very exciting. 3 states live, 4th state coming. And we are launching K-3 and high school in the next several months. So by early 2026, we will have K-12 health and sex education based on all of this IP, which I hope you're getting the very clear sense is both totally science-based and also very, very warm and humorous. It is relatable. It is also reliable. Find everything on lessawkward.com.
When you talk about health and sex education in schools, the boys in my town, they get their sex ed talk when they were in 5th grade, becoming a man talk, whatever. They got a little swag bag after their talk. So, of course, they all walk out of the school building smelling like the swag bag. The deodorant that they gave the 5th grade boys was Old Spice After Hours, which the tagline is like, so you can keep on going.
Oh my God.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I swear to God. Clearly there was a glut of that they were sending out to all the elementary schools, but that's all these little kids came walking out.
After 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, that's right. 9:15. You got another few hours in you, fella.
Oh
Vanessa,
God.
we've got a new potential podcast sponsor.
By the way, kudos that they're starting these talks in 5th grade. I think that's fabulous. It's so funny, this sort of becoming a man. There's this great haiku about bar mitzvahs, which is, today I am a man, tomorrow I return to the 7th grade. And it does speak to this really complicated dance of like what we're telling them about their sexual maturation and their physical maturation. And yet they're still like developmentally babies or young and sort of figuring it all out. And I think as parents of kids going through puberty, it's balancing what they look like versus like what they're developmentally able to handle and understand and decision make. And that is really hard. And for people with late bloomers who look really young, but are actually like intellectually becoming very sophisticated and wonderful thinkers, it's hard to give them credit for that capacity also. And so that's something we talk a lot about.
Their brains are not fully cooked until they're almost 30. Their hormones do not settle down into a regular nice, gentle pattern until well into their 20s. It explains everything about our decision-making through college and beyond. These kids are not done by any stretch while they're living under your roof.
That's a good thing to remember. I like that. These kids are not done. Let them develop. Let them figure stuff out. They're not done. By a long shot. They're not done. They're not done. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Welcome to It Takes Energy, presented by Energy Transfer, where we talk all things oil and natural gas. Oil and gas drive our economy, ensure our country's security, and open pathways to brighter futures. When it comes to meeting the world's energy needs, more is better. What we mean is our world needs a wide range of energy sources to meet our increasing needs. Just wind or solar won't get us there, as the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. With our growing population and the increasing use of energy-demanding technologies like AI, reliability is key, and the reliability of natural gas is unmatched by wind and solar. That doesn't mean we all can't work together, but natural gas is vital to ensuring we meet our energy needs. Look around, and you'll see the essential role oil and gas plays in our lives. Our world needs oil and gas, and people rely on us to deliver it. To learn more, visit energytransfer.com.